Okay, Clare hurler Tony Kelly has joined All-Ireland Senior Hurling Championship sponsor Littlewoods Ireland to launch their new Style Meets Substance campaign, returning for the fourth year running as a top-tier sponsor. Littlewoods Ireland's Style Meets Substance campaign is a celebration of hurling people, their individuality, their love for the game and joy of championship. Tony, how are you getting on?
Not too bad. Not too bad, no.
An interesting time, I'd imagine. You're there, as people could probably tell, in school at the moment doing this interview. You're set to go out on the hurling pitch for a massive game against Limerick this weekend. How do you feel about everything? How do you feel about your own safety and actually taking part in this championship?
I suppose, look, it's very unusual times. From my own point of view, probably personally, I'm happy to proceed with it. With the championship, I've no real issue with playing it. I suppose that's kind of born out of the fact of I suppose when we first started meeting back as a group maybe 5-6 weeks ago, I suppose Brian, his management team, I suppose along with the county board, have put certain protocols in place for us. So be it a right to training, you get your temperature taken, you get an individual hand sanitizer. Again, there's obviously no talking out in dressing rooms or coming to train on your own. Then when you go to training, if one person needs to use the facility, be it a bathroom, at a time. So I suppose any concern I may have had or other players may have had in our own camp, I suppose we're definitely lessened, if not squashed, maybe going back to the first week of training. Everything has just been so professionally done from our viewpoint as players, really. But obviously, look, at some players that have raised concerns in the past couple of weeks, and look, at obviously it's very understandable. But personally, from my own point of view, I'm very much happy to proceed with the championship as it is.
That's the most important thing, really, isn't it? That the players do feel safe. And the experts are telling us that the actual act of playing a game of hurling isn't likely to throw up any positive cases. And if you're travelling to the game in your own cars and looking after yourself outside the games, then if you're talking about that level of professionalism which Clare seem to have brought to the table, then I guess that weight is off your shoulders a good bit.
Yeah, definitely. But again, any management or county board can have the best protocols in the country and do everything to the letter of the law, but it's up to the players and whatever individuals are actually at the session or engaging in the matches to carry them out to the letter of the law. There's no point having protocols there if you're not going to follow them. And in fairness to any of our lads, be it management, selectors, lads doing stats, any players, they've done what's been asked of them. I see it myself in the working environment, being in a school, something similar. Each protocol has to be followed by students and staff in order for it to be effective. And look, as you said yourself, it has been said that there's less chance of it, maybe the COVID transmitting from an outside setting rather than an inside setting. So the protocols being put in place, along with that advice of being outdoors, makes it a safer environment, and I suppose makes us, the players, feel a lot safer about participating in the games.
For sure. As a hurler, then, if we can be selfish here for a moment, Tony, I don't think anybody's going to give out to you for that. Your form before the pandemic erupted was fantastic. You were going really, really well in the National League. David Fitzgerald, I think, said you were remarkable in training before the break. As I say, being selfish here for a moment, is there a sense that the pandemic came at just the wrong time for you personally in terms of that form you were showing this year?
No, maybe if I was showing the championship and the championship had closed down, but the league is very much kind of, it's kind of there to get lads up to speed. Some lads are up to speed maybe quicker than others. You often see it, some lads might do their own bit maybe in October, November, December before they come back into pre-season in January or February. And look, at league form is league form. It's producing in championship is where it really matters. And look, at everyone is kind of on a clean slate, if you like. On Sunday, it's kind of a shotgun championship if you want to put a term on it. You know, everyone's maybe got a lead in maybe 6-7 weeks, and I think it's trying to get the balance right in those 6-7 weeks between getting lads to tip-top shape and then trying to have that trade-off. Well, I don't want to overcook lads and have them tired or maybe fatigued going into Sunday. So it's whichever team can hit that balance correctly into the championship probably going to have the biggest advantage for whichever game or however long it continues.
I can only imagine, because there isn't any sort of feeling your way into this year's championship. Not that you could ever do that in the round robin in Munster in previous years, but the fact that you've got two competitions on the line here on Sunday only adds to this idea that this is very much do or die.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose look at it's a Munster quarter final. There's also the element of the doubling up with the league as well. But it's very much probably from our own camp. It's very much a Munster Championship quarter final. That's the way we're looking at it. I suppose you have an extra bonus of a league title maybe at the end of it for the winner. But yeah, look at it. It's a strange way to lead into a championship. I suppose with the uncertainty that was probably cast around in maybe the last 10 days or so. But look, we've taken it that it was always going ahead. And as of now, it's going ahead of Sunday. Whatever happens in a week's time or 2 weeks' time is no probably relevance to us in terms of looking forward to the weekend.
You look at some of the players that are going to be missing this weekend. There's a lot of star Clare forwards that won't be taking to the pitch on Sunday afternoon. How have you managed to use that as a motivating factor, and the fact that Limerick are going to be bigged up as favourites come Sunday?
Yeah, look, I suppose it's no secret that Limerick are favourites for Sunday. And look, going in their past form of the last couple of years in Championship, they've been excellent. You know, they've been probably one of the standard bearing teams, I suppose, themselves. Tipperary, especially in Munster, those two teams, I suppose, winning Munster Championships and All Ireland's the previous 2 years. But yeah, look, we're under no illusion that I suppose the opponent we're up against. I suppose you mentioned there the 2 or 3 guys that were down maybe through injury. Look, that's just the nature of the game. You have to. I suppose next man up really is the attitude within the camp. We've added a few younger lads to the panel since the beginning, I suppose, of the 6-week period leading into Championship. A few of them are playing with the under 20s against Tipperary last night, but it's great for those lads to come in. The likes of John Conlon is hurt, but still around the camp doing his own bit of individual training. And yeah, look, we're in a good place. We might be down a few bodies, but look, we have plenty more to come in and do equally as good a job, if not a better job. So we've no complaints in that regard. And as I said, everyone within the camp is just hungry and looking forward to get out in the field Sunday.
How do you manage to turn that into a positive then? How do you create that siege mentality within the camp that everybody's writing us off can actually become a positive? Because it is said so often in aftermaths of games where people say, sure, everybody wrote us off. I think you would have a legitimate cause to say that were you to get the business done on Sunday.
Yeah, look, we're under no illusion that we are underdogs for Sunday. And look, that could be justified as well, especially with our performance maybe last year against Limerick. It wasn't up to par in the round robin of the Munster Championship. And but look, every game is different. You know, you can dwell too much on the past as well, and that can affect how you're going to perform in the future as well. But we certainly have looked at aspects of what went wrong for us maybe last year, personally and collectively as a team. And look, we're going to try and rectify that Sunday. And as I said, it's a different game. We have a different management team behind us, so it's not going to be the same as last year. And you know, look, we're just looking forward to getting out and I suppose imposing any new game plans that we might have developed under new management, and again, new players in different positions and things like that. What
did you identify as the things you could have worked on from last year?
It's probably hard to know. When you look, we're kind of reflecting a game that probably didn't go your way. You're probably looking, first of all, you probably look at yourself and look at your own performance, and I suppose see how you affected the game, or did you affect the game, or you know, what improvements could you have made. And look, at personally myself, I've sat down and I have watched it and analysed it, and seen where areas where I can improve. Collectively, there are areas we can improve on that we've worked on for Sunday. I'm not going to disclose what areas we're going to target or work on, but there definitely is areas, especially even when you win, there are areas. But especially after last year, we've learned. Well, I hope we've learned an awful lot from let's say the beatings we took last year, in terms of we lost Tipperary and Limerick, especially in Munster.
Can I ask you then, Tony, just as a general point, and maybe this is, I guess, highlighted a little bit this weekend, considering a couple of your other forwards are missing. Like, say, if we were doing a preview before a Clare game, we're always talking about how do you stop Tony Kelly? Who is the man marker in that position, and how do you go so far to stop that specific threat? Is that something that you look at as a hurler very often? Do you think about who is going to be marking me? Who is the opposition going to be? And what specifically and tactically are they going to throw at me?
Yeah, look, it's used. I suppose the more you play, the more you kind of get used to of different approaches teams have. It isn't my first or second year kind of playing, so you kind of get used to it. You play against teams now so often that you invariably come up against the same players that you've marked maybe in league or championship in years gone by, and again, look, you can focus on it to a point. Then obviously there's other areas. Some people you can get too much caught up in it, and then eventually the game will probably pass you by on the day. So you need to focus on yourself, but also keep an eye on it. Okay, how did I get on against this matchup the previous day out, or what are they good at? What might they be weak at? Things like that. And they're probably looking at me no different. What am I good at? What am I not particularly good at? So look, we've come across our players so often that you're marking them at college level, probably marking at schools level, college level, and then in senior level. So yeah, look, you pay attention to it, but not too much attention to it, you know.
How do you manage to use that then to say, kind of think to yourself, how can I be, say, more of a playmaker than a scorer in certain times? Like, is that something that you felt you've added a little bit over the last couple of years, where people might really go after you or double mark you to try and stop you as a scoring threat, but obviously that leaves somebody else free elsewhere in your forward department? Have you got to that level where you're actually thinking one step ahead of the opposition?
Yeah, I think that comes with experience as well. When you first kind of get into it as a young player, you're kind of, when you first maybe get maybe a man marker, it's how do I deal with it? But the more and more, I suppose, you experience it, the more you have the tools to, I suppose, cope with it. I suppose one thing is, even when you're not in the play, it's all about trying to create space maybe for others around you. Even though you might be marked out of it, there's certain times in the game where you can actually maybe get out of the way. I don't have a better phrase for it. Just get out of the play and create space for other forwards and other players to run into. And the biggest thing then is patience. Biggest thing I've learned is not to go chasing. Not to go chasing the game. You can go chasing it and end up north for the game, and you could cover 11, 12k in a game and have no real impact on it. So it's all about trying to be smart on the ball and try and be smart off the ball. And as you said, try and read it a step ahead, so you kind of create space for others, but you're also kind of involved in the game as well.
Do you prefer playing at midfield or centre forward?
Either or, really. It doesn't really matter too much. Kind of at centre forward, I kind of like to go out around the middle. Anyways, midfield, there's probably a bit more freedom at midfield in terms of depending on the opposition. You could often shake hands with a midfielder nowadays in a game, and you wouldn't see him again until you're throwing in the ball again for the second half. It's that much up and down, and depending on the style of team you're playing against. Some teams like to go along with it. Some teams like to run it more. So yeah, there isn't too much of a difference between the half forward line now midfield. The half forward line is seen more now as the graveyard shift now. Similar to football, you're going up and down the field for the 75 minutes. You're
creating the space. That's what you're doing in that.
Yeah.
Can I ask you then finally just about Brian Lohan and what he's brought to things this year? I mean, he was part of the last team to win a Munster title, which I always think is one of the mad aberrations in Irish sport, that Clare have somehow gone 22 years without winning a Munster title. Is that they tapped into a lot with Brian? Is it mentioned? Is it a specific target for this group of hurlers?
No, it's not one thing. I don't think it's been mentioned at all this year. I think it's very much about getting a performance and getting a win under your belt. I think if you look too far forward, about Munster finals or All-Ireland finals, I feel that you kind of take your eye off the ball a small bit. He's very much been a breath of fresh air for us coming in. I had worked with him previously in UL for 2 or 3 years, and the Fitzgibbon Cup teams, again, Ken Ralph and James Moore again, selectors with him this year with Clare as well. They also were in UL. So I had a fair idea what his philosophy on hurling was, what he was all about. But I really didn't see it truly until this year, because with a Fitzgibbon team, you're kind of only maybe training once a week. You've so many inter-county, I suppose, players, they can't be training 2 and 3 nights a week. But I've really enjoyed it now since he came in last winter. It's been a breath of fresh air in terms of new approach to playing. It's fresh. It's something new, and obviously he was a legend to so many of us growing up playing for Clare. Obviously we were probably too young to remember any of the 90s, but he was still hanging around in the early 2000s, you know, and he's such a legend in Clare hurling and in hurling in general. And I suppose when he speaks, you literally have to absorb everything he has. He's such a knowledge and a wealth of knowledge of the game. And as I said, he's a breath of fresh air, along with the selectors and the trainers and strength and conditioning lads, giving a new lease of life to some new lads coming into the panel, and some older lads as well that are kind of dwindling down the years, giving them a new sense of life as well. So
yeah, that age thing is really interesting though, Tony, because like, for all that you've achieved, I think a lot of people are surprised to be reminded that you're still only 26. Is that something that you think of a lot? Or maybe do you use it as a staging post to gauge how well you've done so far in your career? Like when you won your All-Ireland and your All-Star, were you thinking, geez, this is extra special because of the age that I am? And do you then look at your current state of play and say to yourself, there's a lot left in the tank here age-wise for me to achieve more?
Yeah, look, I suppose this is my ninth season hurling with the Clare Seniors. Yeah, and I suppose I still am only 26. I'm still hoping there's a few more years left in the tank. But yeah, look, you can look back on what you've achieved. I think that's kind of for later down the road. I think that's for when you're 36, 35 or 36. You might look back. The only thing you'd look back on, I think I look back on, is trying to bring a bit of experience from maybe playing. Maybe not Ireland Final 13. What is the experience from that? What experiences then you gained in from maybe going out in a qualifier the year after, or maybe losing a Munster final? What kind of experiences can you bring? They're the only kind of nuggets of information I look back on. I wouldn't look back and put the feet up and ponder on what you've done. It's kind of what have you done for me lately? Really, kind of that's the way the GA, that's the way sport is. Because you say, look, I'm 26. You don't know what's down the road. You don't know with an injury. You don't know what's going to happen. A pandemic like we're in now could cost you a year. An injury could cost you a year. So it's all about kind of living in now and trying to capitalise and win as much as you can. You're not going to win every day you go out, but try and put yourself in a position to win is kind of the main goal.
Yeah, for sure. I can imagine. Listen, Tony, it's been great chatting to you. Very best of luck on Sunday and all the different competitions that are up for grabs in that game in Thurles. Chat to you soon.